Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me tell you about the only supplements that I use. For nearly 10 years, Bear Performance Nutrition has been on a mission to educate, inspire, and improve the performance of modern-day athletes, adventurers, and warriors through training, nutrition, and supplementation. With effective formulas that work as hard as you do and are third-party tested for prohibited substances, you can get results and reach your full potential with Bear Performance Nutrition. Head to the link in the show notes to go to the website to help me out and to help you out so that we can go one more together. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast, episode 41. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and we have a very, very special guest in New Jersey, Jerry Eicke. Jerry, what's up, man?
Joe, how are you? Good to be here with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here too. We got connected through our mutual connection, Sam Tooley, who is episode 2 of the Project Endure podcast. Fun fact, this podcast was a clean rated podcast on all platforms until Sam's episode.
Oh boy.
And then it's, yeah, exactly. But with that being said, Jerry, I feel like I know a good amount about you through Sam. We've talked a few times, but I want you to introduce yourself to really me again and the audience, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Joe. We met each other through Sam and at Alpha Fit Club, which I'm involved in, one of the founders there. But prior to that, I was in the financial field. I was a partner at a hedge fund for about 17 years, and then left the hedge fund space and wasn't sure what to do with myself. And I always wanted to try the restaurant business. So I hooked up with a buddy of mine, Jerry Eicke, who has a local deli, but started a franchise business. And we got together with the Salad House, and started franchising that business. So got involved with that. I also got involved with Pliables, which is something I really enjoy and love. And I have a few of those stores. And then Alpha Fit Club. So I don't know how I got here, but I've migrated towards healthy living. I mean, I guess I want to live longer, which is great. I want to endure. I want to be around. So it's nice that I think we moved in that direction. So right now, I kind of split my time among those things. So it's really Pliables, Salad House, Alpha Fit Club, and really, I mean, just this stage of my life, just surrounding myself with what I believe to be just really good, positive people. Because you have a little more choices. I think at my age.
Yeah, I'm curious for you how you got into the world of finance, and then what was the deciding factor for you for leaving the world of finance or the hedge fund?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got involved. I've been an entrepreneur, for a long time. I had just sold a business, which was a Valley parking service company, and I had sold that business, and I made some money. And then I was running parking operations for Central Parking, Kinney Parking, was in New York City, and then I was in Connecticut. I was running their operations for the state of Connecticut, for everything they had in the state of Connecticut. And then I had a buddy of mine who was making investments, and he needed, some high net worth individuals to make some investments. And I didn't know anything about the types of investments there, but I knew, a good group of guys, and started to make some investments. And I was like, wow. I mean, this was back in, pre-01, because, my original meetings were at the Trade Center. So I was like, man, I'm making some good money on these investments. I need to figure this out. Like, what are these guys doing? And then I met with a couple of the guys, a couple of buddies that got to know them really well. And they're like, you know, high net worth guys, you're kind of in that, circle of people. I think you'd be good speaking to people. We could teach you the business, do you want to jump over to that? And I said, yeah, man, like, I'll give it a shot. Like, what's it pay? And they're like, it's whatever you can make. I'm like, what? And, at the time, I mean, it was early on. I was making good money. I was making six figures, back in that time, had a nice cushy job. And I was like, you know what, man, but I just had a good feeling about it. And I was like, you know what, let's do it. Let's do it. So I went home and told my wife, I was like, listen, let's pick up, let's go back to Jersey. I mean, she's, one of six girls and she wanted to be back in Jersey anyway. And let's make a jump there. And she's like, well, what does the job pay? And I'm like, nothing. It was like, I'm like, we just got to, like these guys would always say, it's eat what, eat what you kill. And I made the leap over there and, for 17 years, didn't look back, so that was kind of a leap of faith with friends, just getting involved. That was a fun that, when I got there, had a little over $1 million, and we grew it to a little over $1.2 billion at the time that I was there, and then the financial crisis, and then that sort of thing.
Wow. So before we get into some of the deep stuff, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the first times we met at Alpha Fit Club, when the Westfield location had just opened, you told me a story about a wild experience you had in the valet parking industry, or in the parking industry. Do you remember that story? I believe it was like you received some kind of a threat at some point. You know
Yes, I do know that story. I didn't know I told you that story. When I was in the parking business, we had, some locations that were, we were operating locations that were we were in the Jersey Shore. And this was, we, I don't know, probably had 15, 20 locations at the Jersey Shore. And, a lot of the money was in cash, and we would, go around, and I would literally be on like a bicycle or, drive by, and like, you would literally pick up cash. You would be parking a lot of cars, and it was successful. DJs was one of the places. If you're a Jersey guy, DJs like very busy. And we would do really well. And one day I went to the location, and I went to pick up, I went to stop by and check on the place, and there was a note on the winch, someone was like, hey, someone left a note on the windshield for you to call. I think it was like Joe from Brooklyn or Joe from Staten Island or something. And I'm like, I don't know. I threw that away. I don't know. And then came back the next day, did my pickup, and like, called Joe from Staten Island. And I was like, I don't know who that is, throw it away. The next day I went back there, and it was like, call Joe from Staten Island, or you'll have a problem with your cars. And I'm like, or your cars may catch fire. It was something crazy like that. And I was like, what? And I called Joe from Staten Island or Brooklyn, wherever it was, and had dialogue. And it, long story short, I mean, he wanted to, had conversations with me, and it was literally a shakedown. It was a low-level mob shakedown. And they wanted to, he was like, I called, I spoke to him, and he said, yeah, he goes, well, they're, we just want to make sure that your cars are protected, that there's no fires in any of the cars. And I was like, we've never had any damage or fire in the cars. He goes, well, it could happen. And I'm like, okay. So this was getting very interesting, and I probably told you, I mean, that's the way I felt. Like, it's all fun when like you're watching The Sopranos and like, like all the crazy stuff you see on TV. But when literally like it's you involved in this, it takes it to a different level. And then, you don't know what to do. Like, what do you do? Like, do you pay, like, hey, how much? Or, and we wound up making a call, and, getting the state police involved. And, and so, I mean, we had our phones tapped, and it was traced that way. And that's really, what was happening as they started to kind of like build a case, against the guy who was calling us. So I mean, you want me to keep going? I mean, I can tell you how you all go.
How does it end? Yeah, how does it end?
So what happened was it was odd how it started to get aggressive, and then it got to the point where the state police were like, "Hey, listen, like it's now time for you to like wear a wire, like and and tape the conversation and meet with him." And they're like, well, I said, what do you mean? And they're like, well, yeah, meet at, we'll set up you set up a meeting with him. And I remember it was at the Newark Airport Marriott, set up a meeting at the Newark Airport Marriott. We'll be in a van, like 300 about 300 yards away. And you wear a wire, wear it down, like you'll wear it down your pants. Like no one's going to check you there. And then like, when this goes down, we'll come and take care of it. I'm like, this got way too crazy. So I'm like, okay, let me think about it. And then at the time I was like, I was in the parking space, and I had, some friends that I thought like, they're, probably, some guys that are kind of tougher, edgier guys. And I had a guy named Alex, who was a Russian, big Russian guy, was in the parking business. And I'm like, let me call Alex and let me see, what he recommends, and I said to him, hey, Alex, I got this problem. I got the guy, Joe from Brooklyn, calling me. He's like, what? This guy's trying to shake you down? And I was like, yeah. He's like, give me the number. And I gave him the number, and I literally never heard from that guy again. Never called me again. But the crazy part about it, and that's all I wanted. Like, all I wanted was that to go away, because it was so stressful. And then when it went away, then the stress came on the police side, because on the police side, now they had a case, and they're like, well, we need to build, like we have enough, like, like we can just set up a, like if you set up a meeting, or, like you call him, I'm like, he's like, he's going to do this to somebody. I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, I just want this to go away. Like, I don't need this. And that's really what happened was, I just kind of blew the police off, and I was like, I don't know what happened. I don't want to know what happened. Like, all I know is the situation went away, and I'm good with it. And that's my story.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's exactly how I remember it. And, so that's obviously a tough situation, but if we were to zoom out and just look at life as a whole, I'm going to ask you the first question, and that is, what's the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle? So a circumstance that essentially happened to you, that you didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I listen when I listen to, what you go through and what you endure. And when, when I have, our friend Sam, like what he's got, I'm like, I'm going to talk to you. And I'm like, I feel so, I don't know, blessed seems so cliche, but like, I haven't been through the tough things that I think a lot of, so many people, especially in my age, have gone through. So I'm very lucky at, where I am today. When I look at what's been tough for me, like the first thing, I even brought it up to my wife. I said, the first thing that comes to mind really, is our inability to have more than one kid. I have a son, healthy. But after that, we couldn't have another kid. And, I had a really nice job, a lot of money, could do anything, could travel, could do it, but like we couldn't make it happen. And and it was like you start to go down that rabbit hole, like why did that happen? We start to go down with, all right, well, let's do, you go through all the testing, and then you go through the cycles of IVF, and it really, we went through, and you hear people tell stories of like, oh yeah, I tried it, we did it once or twice. It was so, because it's giving shots. It's, going over to New York City, because we were doing it in New York, taking a car service at certain times, giving the shots at a certain, going over there. Then it's literally a medical procedure. You're going through a procedure, and you wait, and then you're crossing your fingers, and then it fails. And we did that 7 times, man. So when you talk about like, enduring, just to kind of have your heart broken, like time after time after time, I was like, oh, it was, and like, you just want to keep going. But at some point, like, you just like, you can't, man. And it's like, not fair to, not fair to my wife, not fair to me. and at some point you just got to like, it's not going to happen, and that was really tough, man, like to go through that kind of heartache. But at the same time, like you're always thinking like, hey, listen, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to power through it, and I'm going to get to it, and look at what's going to happen at the end. Like you would think, you know what, man, like, we only have a couple eggs, but like it only takes one. And like you go through that thing and like failure. I mean, 7 times, and and not that it's that's the main point, but like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's that like that powering through that kind of that broken heart, not only yours, but your someone else you really love, to not be able to make that happen. That I think when I think of, one thing that's kind of always like stuck, and you always think back, like what could we have done differently? What could you, and it is what it is. And you're thankful that you have a healthy kid now, and he's doing great, and he's a good kid, and everything's happy now. But that was a tough one, man.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I think, when you say that, my wife and I put in 7 offers on houses over the past year. And I know what that process felt like, of getting your hopes up and then being let down, getting your hopes up, being let down, going through the process. I cannot imagine what that is like when it comes to the hope of having a child and then being let down time and time again.
Absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point were you able to come to a place of peace with all of that, or have you even been able to come to a place of peace?
Dude, it still comes up. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's been, my son's a healthy 21-year-old,
Yeah.
So, it still comes up. Like we'll be, you watch a movie that triggers something, you hear a song that triggers something, and you're thinking like, shit, and then, thing like you almost feel like on some level you let everybody down, like, man, if I would have done this sooner, if she would have done that sooner, he would have a sibling right now, like, to the point where like when it's like National Siblings Day, you're like, Jesus Christ, like,
Yeah.
that's on me,
Do you feel like a lot of it's on you? Because in the way you described it almost feels like, part of that is just, it is what it is, and you guys did your best.
Yeah, you never know. I think you take, when you're younger, you feel like you're invincible, right? You're like, man, like I don't have to do this stuff now, man. Let's travel, let's do this, let's do that, and maybe you put it off, and maybe things could have been different if we got started earlier on the, so like, I think that's kind of the bucket you always put it in, like what and maybe the outcome would have been the same, but like, I think it's always in your head that, so, that's probably the thing that still to this day, still stings,
Yeah. How old are you, Jerry?
55.
55. So one thing that I've begun to realize about myself at 28 is that my body just slightly doesn't feel the same as it did when I was like 23.
Yeah.
And, my dad will always say, once he was in his 30s, things started to change, and, your body changes. So like, when it comes to health, when it comes to your time, when it comes to your life, what are some things that you used to take for granted that you no longer take for granted because you've aged?
Yeah, man. I don't think, I wish I would have had the appreciation for health and exercise the way I do now.
Yeah.
I think back in the day, if we, look, as I was kind of, growing up in my career and everything, I was always, I would run and I would do some stuff, but I would never be kind of, doing the stuff that I'm doing now. And, it's just really when I got, when I kind of left the finance field and I wasn't, traveling all the time and, going all over the world and all these crazy places, that you're able to kind of put some roots down and have a routine. You just really never had a routine. You're always kind of squeezing kind of, I'm going to go for a run here, and then a couple of days I'm going to go for a run, whereas, now, you have like kind of that set routine, and it's a lot easier to do now. and you work out a little bit differently, man. I know you're a PT, PT. Yeah. I'm going through some sciatica now. So that's kind of derailed me a little bit, but like over the last couple of years, without that in play, I've been in the best shape of my life. I mean, doing, obstacle course races and, 5Ks, 10Ks, and really feeling good about myself and, feeling strong. And then, and I think, the people around you notice that. And I think that's everybody else steps their game up a little bit, your friends, your family, so that's nice to see too. But, like this somehow, I don't know, somehow I've wound up in like a healthy fitness community and it's, like I would never thought that would be me. But I've wound up in a healthy fitness community of just really good people too. In that community, and, certainly you being one of those guys, there's a lot of good people who are doing good things with their body and with wellness. But it doesn't mean you have to be broke either. Like you could do these things and, you could still make money, and you could still, make people's lives better, but it's not mutually exclusive. Like you don't have to be broke and, be helping people or be healthier, that's kind of my mind of being a financial guy. Like I try to instill that in people in the health and wellness field, because I almost feel like they think because they're in health and wellness that like you have to, I don't know, like you have to be poor or you have to be broke or you have to, no, that's not the case, man. Like you could actually make money and you could do the things and you could help people,
I really love this topic. I've been very interested in the stock market for a long time. My dad, if he's listening to this, will probably laugh. But when I was in middle school, he convinced me to put all of my money in the stock market. I was opposed to it for a while. I thought, you could lose it. So why not just keep it in the bank? But he convinced me and he said, find a company you like. So I found Tesla at their IPO. And he was like, and I was like, I want to put, a couple $1,000s into this, all the money I had. And he was like, it's a startup, why don't we put it in something safer? So he talked me out of it a few times. I ended up getting in and I'm happy I did. But the best part about it is that he got in when he told me not to. So he owes me a little bit, but I won't.
That's awesome.
But I'm always interested in it. And the thing about, money is I think there's a stigma around making money and helping people, like you said. And I also think there's a difference between buying something and investing in yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of the difference between like making a purchase and making an investment, maybe even in the space of health and wellness or just overall.
When you say making a purchase, what do you mean by making a purchase?
So like if I buy something, so I make a purchase of, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Say I buy a fiction book that I want to read, right? It's a purchase, it's for pleasure versus buying a gym membership where I'm investing into my health and wellness and into a community potentially. Well, there's a difference there to me. Do you find that investing for people into health and wellness is a difficult choice?
I don't know. I don't think so, because, I guess investing in the actual investment of health and wellness or investing in health and wellness, I guess that's kind of the two things I'm looking at, because I'm invested in health and wellness as a member of like an Alpha Fit Club, as a member of like the garage gym, so, that's investing in my health and wellness. I guess what I've found is that those things can also be good investments, as a financial reward, and I think that's kind of, and we'll see how it goes, and it's trending in the right direction, but that's kind of, how I've made my investment decisions, just from a financial perspective. It's really been like, the reason I got involved in Appliables is because, it is healthy, but I enjoy it and I like the vibe of it and I enjoy it as a consumer. And I see a lot of other people that are like-minded like me enjoying it as a consumer. Why can't there be an investment? Let's learn more about that, and then that was the same way with, with the Salad House and then also with Alpha Fit Club. It's really like, I love it, it's crazy that other people, wouldn't love it, and you start to kind of get some other people's feel on things, and you're like, so I don't think, I think you can do both. Like, I think you can invest in something for yourself, and on many occasions there may be an opportunity to make a financial investment in that as well. And like I said, somehow, like, it's worked out, well for me, in that I feel like I've gotten healthier along the way over, all over the last 5, 6, 7 years, since I've been doing this. And I've also done well financially from it as well. It's taken longer, so like, if we just look at it from the financial from a financial field, like, the money in finance is like, kind of, exponentially more, potentially more in a shorter period of time. Whereas this is kind of slower. But as long as it continues to trend the way it's trending, it's more rewarding. And I could tell you that the people that I'm surrounded with, no offense to my financial guys, but the people I'm surrounded with, or surrounded by in the health and wellness, and, the guys that are involved in the gym, and the guys with the salad house, and the women in each of those companies, are just such good people. So it's rewarding on so many different levels, than what I've been used to, where it's just a financial reward.
Yeah. And it's cool to hear how, when you've put yourself in places where you are investing, whether that's your time and energy and or finances, into things that you believe in, with other good people who you're surrounding yourself with, like, things just tend to work out. And I think it's so important to be around good people.
Absolutely. And it's not easy, like, if we just look at some of these investments that I've gotten involved in, like when I came in, to Pliables, that was probably the furthest along. But I was probably franchise owner number 15. And now there's 150 franchises, so like, I got in early, and that, that worked out. When I got involved with the salad house, my partner Joey only had two locations, and he was just a good person with good food. Like, he didn't know really the business side of it, and I knew that going in. And I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and it was so tough, so many times along the way. But like, to use your show, you endure, like, as long as you continue to see that progress, it was worth it. Right. Like, we started, we look back at like what that's, the stores look like, what the menus look like, and kind of what we were doing, from a revenue standpoint. We're almost, Joe, we're almost doing, like, in Westfield, with a salad house, just give you an example. Like, we went in there, we're almost doing 3 times the revenue we were doing when we first started almost 6 years ago. Wow. Like, that's how bad it was then, and how much better it's gotten. But it's been, slow and steady, like, getting a little better every day, just continually getting better, continually moving the ball. And that's, I could say the same thing with Alpha Fit Club. Out of the gate, it was very, we felt really good about it. But we had to do a lot of tweaks along the way, to get it to the point where these these locations were doing as well as they're doing now, but it is that you really do need to be surrounded with the right people. And I've been very fortunate when I left the financial world to be in 3 businesses that really have people that care so much about their businesses. And, and I was lucky enough to kind of, contribute,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons I started the Hard Things Club for Project Endure was because I saw such a need for community. I realized that there were so many people in my life who felt like they were alone in what they were going through. But to me, I saw so many similarities, and I just wanted to bring those people together so that there was this support system, this group of people that shared a similar mindset when it came to pursuing growth, pursuing potential, finding strength in struggle, sharing stories, being vulnerable. And it's just been so special to be around those people virtually. And that's another thing too, is like, you know, when you were in the parking business, I mean, the community you had was physical, right? There was no Facebook group. There was no, you know, Zoom calls. It was who you were around.
Yep.
And I think the world right now it's more connected than it's ever been, but people might also feel more alone than they've ever felt. And I think that's a weird dichotomy that we're living through.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about like with the, you know, with the gyms. I mean, you know, we had the Westfield location up and running, and we had just signed on with, you know, essentially Verona and Red Bank leases, you know, and in the middle of a pandemic, you know, where everybody was like, couldn't have been further from like wanting to, you know, no one wanted to be around anybody else, you know? So, you know, we really had a decision to make. You know, do we think that, you know, people are still going to go back to doing what they normally, which is being around people and having community? And, you know, we looked around at each other and we're like, absolutely they are. You know, it doesn't seem that good now, but I mean, you know, and we could be completely wrong and we lose everything. And, but we're going to forge ahead. And we did. And, you know, thankfully we were right. Because, you know, I mean, I'm sure Sam has said it a bunch of times, like, you know, the workouts are great, you know, the trainers are great, but it's like it's that community, man. If you talk to anybody about Alpha, you know, like an Alpha Fit Club, I mean, they'll tell you like, yeah, it's great. I mean, but you expect a good workout. You expect, you know, good trainers. But like to be able to form the friendships that you're able to form, you know, by going to these classes and just getting to know people inside the gym, but then also outside the gym is just rewarding on, you know, so many other levels, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And now we've already touched on in this conversation many hard things that you've been through in business, but what's the hardest thing that you've ever done on purpose, and why have you done that thing? Curious.
Hardest thing on purpose. You know what, man? I mean, the easy answer would be like, you know, starting these businesses and you know, I think when you start the businesses, knowing what I was going to get into, you know, especially with like a salad, you know, like I would say these businesses, because we knew, you know, I knew going into it, you know, as somebody who looked at companies, you know, when we started Salad House, like how raw that business was. And I knew how much effort it was going to take. And really, Joe, I ate at restaurants, but you know, I'm like, oh, how hard could it be, man? You know, it's really hard. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard, you know, and like I plunked down money to buy into a concept that I knew was going to take a lot of work. And I had really no clue how to do it, you know, but just like, hey man, like we'll figure it out. Like we'll power up, you know, like we'll make it happen, you know? And the same thing was with the gyms. I mean, when Sam and I, and, you know, and the team went and looked, we looked at it, you know, we looked at some of the other concepts out there, the Orange Series, the F45s, and we just couldn't wrap our head around that it was the right fit for us. And I had already started down the road with Salad House, and I knew, I'm like, guys, it's very hard to build a brand, you know, but like we just couldn't get behind, you know, these other brands because we thought we could do it better. And I'm like, it's gonna be so hard, man. Like, do you know what it takes to build? You know, like I'm trying to do it now. Like, it's so hard, you know. And then like everybody was like, we can do it, we can do it, we can do it, you know. So I mean, I think knowing that it was gonna take so much effort, you know, so much time, so much money, so much effort from a number of different people that you still really didn't know, you know, fully, you know. I mean, it was still new relationships. I mean, when we first researched, you know, when we were doing our research and we went around to like F45, and we were looking at them and we looked at, you know, the Orange Theory, you know, and Sam and I went to classes together. Like, that was really the first time that him and I had really spent any time. He was training Parker, you know, my son, in soccer, you know, for, you know, conditioning for soccer, you know. So like, he was like a new introduction to some other, you know, the other guys that are, you know, that are also founders of Alpha Fit Club. And, you know, so not only did you have the fact was that, you know, you didn't know what you were doing. It was a completely new concept, but also this is all new relationships that all has to pan out, you know. And I mean, now, when we look at it, if we take Alpha as an example, we look around and we say, well, like Rob's a CFO, and, he's been through, a bunch of different wars, and, in terms of, companies being bought, and, his, seasoned, time that he spent, outside of, this business and in other business, what I've done, from a financial side in the hedge fund space, and, and then Sam from the fitness side, like it all makes sense now. Like we had a dinner last night, with a group, and, they're like, man, it's just, it makes sense. Like you have, everybody's kind of found their lane, but like in the beginning, it was just like a giant question mark. You didn't know, if what lane anybody was in, and you certainly didn't know if anybody was going to be able to execute at a high level to make, to build a brand,
Mm. Yeah, I've come across this phrase recently, growth isn't glamorous. And I think oftentimes people might look at something like the Salad House or Alpha Fit Club, and they might see the polished product. They might see what they're eating. They might see the customer service. They might see the workout, the trainers, etc. But they don't get to see the messiness that's been worked through time and time again to get to that point. So like, what are some of the lessons you've learned through the messiness of business? And they can be business lessons, or they could just be life lessons.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, I've said it a bunch of times to a lot of the people, like everybody's a disaster. Like we look at, we look at some of the other brands, and I'll tell the guys, like, oh my gosh, look at, we'll look at a, competitive brand, and you name it, either whether it be in the, food space, or, another, we look at like Salad House, we'll look at a Chopped, or, Alpha, we'll look at an F45 or an Orange Theory, and we're like, man, look at that. They do, they do this, seem like they do this so well. They do that so well. Man, they're messed up too. I guarantee you behind the scene, but trust me, like, all the stuff that we're seeing and doing behind the scenes, that's just very, very difficult and very messy and very tough.
Mm-hmm.
The problems we're having, like, don't think that they're not all having them. I guarantee if we found somebody who owns an Orange Theory, or somebody who owns it, senior guy at Chopped, like he'll tell you what a disaster it is behind the scenes. Like we're all going through it, man. Like that's why you just gotta worry about yourself, man. Power through, fix what we're doing. Like, let's make sure we're doing things right. We can always glance up at the competition. There's nothing wrong with that, but like, let's worry about ourselves, and that's really what I think we've done well with all these brands. I think we've done well is we're mindful of the competition, but we're not looking to emulate or copy them. Like we're looking to do our own thing, but we're still keeping an eye on what everybody else is doing, but just trying to do what we do a little better every day.
I think both of those points translate so well into just us as human beings. The first thing you said, which I laughed at, but it's true, we're all a disaster, whether that's in the business sense or just as human beings. Like we've all got our stuff, right? And we, you see on social media, people are all put together. They're putting on their best for the picture or the video or whatever it is. It's edited. But behind the scenes, we've all got our problems. We're all human.
100%.
And then that second point, which I really love, is like, it's okay to look around. It's okay to see what other people are doing, but to live from the inside out, to operate from a place of we are going to do our thing and to run your race, I think is also a really important human lesson.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's hard to stay on that path, right? I mean, I think it's natural to always kind of, oh man, look what these guys are doing. Like we should be doing that. I'm like, well, maybe. I mean, maybe we could do something similar to that, but like, let's do our thing, and you just, I mean, I think the other thing, from a lesson standpoint in the messiness, I don't think you could be afraid to make mistakes and just kind of make a decision. I think so many times, just from somebody who's been around just a lot longer than a lot of the guys that are, that I'm working with now, is like, it's okay, man. Just like, just pull the trigger. Let's move on it. Like we could always adjust down the road, but let's move on it. Let's make a decision and move, and let's act, man. Let's, and I think a lot of times everybody's waiting for the perfect situation. Like, oh no, we can't do it now. Like, no, let's do it now. Let's do it now, and let's adapt. Let's pull the trigger. And let's just make it happen. Ready, fire, aim. I mean, like I'm all for that. Let's move along. And that's tough for a lot of people.
Say that. I'm gonna guess that a lot of people missed what just happened there. Say that again, just a little bit more slowly.
Ready, fire, aim. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's just a little bit out of
absolutely.
order.
Absolutely. I mean, I have, and listen, I mean, you try to surround yourself, and I do, with people that have different opinions and different skill sets and different strengths. And I'm not afraid to bring in people that are certainly much smarter than me, because I want to learn, man. I mean, I'm a guy. I'll take all the meetings. I'll take all the calls. Like, I just want to soak it up. Um, and sometimes we just we get paralyzed, and we're looking for the right spot or the right time, and it's just never the right time. Like, let's just let's go. And I think that's a good one. Ready, fire, aim.
Yeah, I love it. And also I think a lot of times people think that being ready is something that they'll feel, but I would argue ready is a choice that you have to make. And I guess to piggyback off that, Jerry, obviously you've accomplished a whole lot in your career thus far, and no doubt you will continue to do that. What's the biggest business mistake that you've ever made? Like, off the top of your head, is there any just disaster that you've had that you've recovered from?
Well, first of all, I mean, I would say, from a business standpoint, I mean, the way I feel right now, I mean, my wife, will say you're crazy, but I don't feel like I've accomplished shit yet.
Huh.
Like, I mean, like, I felt like I've accomplished something in the financial world. Like, I, spent 17 years in, doing, building, helping build that business. Like I said, from, a million to a billion, and had, some really stressful times along the way, and got paid,
Yeah.
and got rewarded for it, which is great. For the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've been doing these other things, and they're trending towards successful, in my opinion. But I don't think they're certainly not there yet. So I don't, like, I feel like like, I still have so much to prove, outside the financial world. And I'm super, I guess, for a guy my age, like, to be, like, still have kind of a, to be motivated and have a chip on my shoulder, to say, like, I want to make a mark, in these spaces that I'm in. But it's really different, Joe. Like, yes, I want to succeed for, for myself, and I want to, prove that I can do it. But like I said before, like, I have so many good people around me that I want to succeed for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I have a quote too that I think is fitting. I've been doing a lot of running recently. I recently surpassed the 100-day mark for my run streak.
I saw that.
And, yeah, which, to be honest, it's been a challenge, but it's actually been a lot more rewarding than it has been challenging. And I think I'm going to keep it going. We'll see how far I get. But this quote is from Megan and David Roche. And I believe they're ultra marathon runners. And specifically, they connect peaks. So they run from the peak of one mountain to the peak of another mountain. And they said, for running, looking around means embracing the process, including the ups and downs on the way. It means the same thing for life. If the goal is to connect summits, you'll probably grow to be indifferent about all the time you aren't on top of a mountain. Essentially meaning, like, if you want to get from one peak to another peak, you're going to have to go through a valley.
Sure.
And, I think that's a really important perspective to have as we look to this third question, which is, what does the word endurance mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's literally, just powering through, like I said to you before, I feel like I've been very fortunate, and kind of, in the, in everything that I have, super thankful. But along the way, you have, like I said, you're dealing with, you're always dealing with some different kind of health issues, and there's always some adversity that comes up in business, and, whether it be a financial stress or whatever. But it's just being able to put your head down and power through. I mean, that's kind of what I see as endurance. I mean, like, I feel like, you're on the treadmill of life, and just keep going, man. Like, people who know me are not, like, I'm not the kind of person that, will sit and dwell about something and be like, all right, well, how do we change it? How do we fix it? Like, I mean, one of the things that, like, a lot of the guys that are close to me, like, I'm not somebody who reports the bad news. Like, I'm not a bad, like we always kid around in our financial guys. We were like, this guy's from the bad news network. Like, he just wants to report the news, but like, I'm about solutions, so like, I'm not the guy who's going to report the news. Like, I'd rather be, part of the solution. So like, the bad news is, is going to come, and it sucks, man. And it derails you. Like I said, I'm in that situation now. Like, it's not a big one, but it's like, like that sciatica, like I've, like is derailed me for the last 3 weeks. And, you have that routine of you're working out and, all right, well, what are you doing about it? Like, all right, what are we doing? Like, so we got, did we set up doctor's appointments? Did you schedule MRI? Like, let's move towards something. Like, let's move it along. So like, for me, endurance is just like, getting shit thrown at you, and then powering through and moving on and making it a little better, just kind of get a little better every day. Just kind of like we're doing in business as well, just powering through. That's endurance to me.
I love that. And it sounds like maybe endurance is, it's okay to get knocked off course. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to like go down part of a path that ends up not being the right one, and getting back on the path that you're supposed to be on, and learning from those experiences. But it's maybe for you just always finding a way to move forward, which I find really admirable.
Yeah. I mean, the moving forward part about it, and that, I mean, I think I'm always pushing other people when, when they report the bad news to me, whether it be like, something with our business or operationally, like, great, thanks for the report. Like, what's the move? Like, what are we doing about it? Like, and you can apply that anywhere. And I really try to, put myself in that mindset. Like, yeah, you got some shit thrown at you. It sucks. But like, what are we going to do to make it a little bit better? So if it's business, and, hey, we've been throwing, curveballs in business, these last 2 years, like nobody before. Like, prices, are skyrocketing, the supply chain stuff, like, all right, well, what are we doing? Are we meeting on a regular basis to discuss, like, alternative products? Are we, considering any kind of price adjustments? Are we adjusting the sizes of anything? Like, all right, well, it's great that we're aware of it. I'm appreciative of people who make me aware of it. And sometimes I make myself aware of it, but like, what are we doing to fix it? I mean, that's really, where I want to get my head to be. And sometimes that's hard to do, because it's easy to kind of just be like, oh shit, that sucks, man. And kind of, be paralyzed, but like, that's not getting you anywhere, like if we move in a direction, I don't know if it's the right direction, but like, move in a direction is a better direction than just sitting here where you are right now,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm curious for you, Jerry, as you think about moving forward, what is forward toward for you? Like, what are you moving toward?
Man, that's a good question. I always want to keep moving. And I say people like, the old guy doesn't rust if he keeps moving, so like, so as long as I like surrounding myself with, with a lot of the young guys and young ideas, and, and the fitness stuff is great. For me, like I kind of alluded to before, I'm searching for, and I'm working towards that, reward for that team that's been, so loyal and supportive of me. I think that's kind of where I'm going, because, I'm, as a lot of times being the old guy in the room, a lot of guys are looking to me and have, left their careers, and really bet on me, so my reward would be to see them elevated.
Yeah, that's really cool. With that being said, I mean, we can't really do anything alone in life, or at least nothing meaningful. And at the same time, there are people out there who might feel alone in what they're going through. So to wrap things up, Jerry, I want you to think of this last question. Your answer is going to be directly in the ears of somebody who is going through potentially a really hard season of life, a really big challenge, a really big obstacle, something that they're just not sure how to move forward. So if you're speaking directly to somebody in that position, what advice, what guidance would you have for that person?
I would say that take it on the chin, get yourself up, and move in a direction. I don't know if that's going to be the right direction, but it ain't as I just feel that it's not as bad as the one you're sitting in right now, so let's pick a direction and let's move. It's kind of like we were talking about with business too. Like, let's make a move, and then we'll adjust if we have to. But I feel like if you keep making that effort to move forward, maybe you zigzag a little bit, you're not going in a straight line if you're not always picking the right path. But as long as we're moving in a direction and it's forward, I don't know. I feel it's better than, sitting on your ass and trying to figure it out,
Yeah. Dale Carnegie, the author of the famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, once said, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. And
I like it.
Yeah, I think Dale probably stole that from you way back.
We probably went to school together.
I'm pretty sure he was around in the early 1900s, so he might predate you a bit.
Yeah,
but with that being said, Jerry, I'm so grateful for this time. I really hope that the people listening were able to really extract all the wisdom that you poured out tonight. What's the best place for people to either find you, connect with you, follow along with the ventures that you have going on right now?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Joe. I mean, it's cool. Like I said, when you called and you wanted me to join, like I said, I really feel like I'm not there yet. And I hope we can revisit this when, we make some crazy big exit, on, with Alpha or Salad House or whatever. But, I could tell you we're working very hard to get there and to be successful, and kind of take it to the level that I think so many people have believed in me. So hopefully we'll have a follow-on conversation. But Jerry at the Salad House or Jerry at Alpha Fit Club. Like those are my two main gigs, and those are the ones that we're hoping to see. I mean, we got a lot of people joining Alpha Fit Club. We have a lot of people that join Alpha Fit Club that go buy buy some healthy eats at the Salad House, and we're doing franchises in both of them, and they're both doing really well, and I'm very grateful for it.
That's awesome. Well, hey, next time I'm back up in New Jersey, we'll have to grab a workout together and eat some salad.
Dude, we miss you, man. I mean, like I said to you, man, like I so enjoyed those conversations sitting there. I remember Sam, I was like, dude, this guy is such a good dude. We have to have him around. I'm like, how do we keep him around? He's like, he is a physical therapist, man. He's not going to be, like this was just when you just got your license and everything, right?
Yeah.
He's like, he's going to be a physical therapist, man. He's not going to be here work. I'm like, we need him, that was my conversation with Sam. It was so funny, but, I always, knew that you would be doing things like this, and you're such a good person, Joe, and I know you work really hard at it, and whatever I can do to help.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.